What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the RBI podcast. This is episode 2. This will be out at Wednesday, 7 a.m., but you know that already because you're listening to it or you're watching it on YouTube. I'm happy you guys are back. I hope you guys liked the first one. And we got some news today, actually. I was actually afraid I was going to have to start really digging for some new things, but we got some signings. We got the Hall of Fame ballot, which always pisses me off. We got a retirement tour we're gonna get, which is well deserved. We're gonna clap it up for that guy when that time comes. And just a couple of takes I have on some players that have some interest in some teams and teams that have some interest in some players, obviously. Like always, follow this account at RBI Podcast on YouTube. You can also find the TikTok now at RBI Pod, as well as the Instagram. It's RBI Pod. So just RBI, spell out POD. It's very simple, not too tough to find. You can also follow me on my personal Instagram at Richie Dordas, Dordas. But I would rather you guys follow the show podcast, the show accounts as well. But so let's get started. Um, the big news that I was afraid we weren't going to get any big news, like I said, but Jose Abreu signed with the Houston Astros on Sunday, I believe, for a 3-year deal worth 58.5 million, 19.5 million per year. I talked last week a lot about the Astros and how they are a juggernaut and how they replace guys. I think I brought up like Christian Javier replacing Greinke, Pena, Correa. You catch my drift. This is just more of the same thing and just proving my point again, except they did it in a different way this time. Like Pena was brought up, so was Javier, so was Tucker. This was a signing. This is like the first time they really signed a guy. It feels like outside of like like Justin Verlander got traded. Even it feels like the first time in a while that they got someone that wasn't theirs. Like Bregman was theirs, Altuve was theirs, Tucker's theirs, Pena's theirs. I guess Michael Brantley would be the best example, like as a guy outside of the box. But just from a signing standpoint, it's just I don't get how the team just keep letting the Astros do this. Yuli Gurriel last year did not have a great year. He is getting older. He's in his high 30s, and he's a contact hitter, hitting the ball on the ground a lot. If you hit the ball on the ground a lot and you start to lose some exit velo on that ball, you're not going to get many hits, especially now. Well, the shift's going away now, but with the shift, everyone's going to have you perfectly positioned, and getting the heat off that ball, less chance it's going to go through. But regardless, he's still a really good defender, and they're going to miss that if he doesn't come back. Which obviously the Abreu signing makes this a little tougher. But more on Abreu. This guy still rakes. I know he only hit 15 home runs last year, but don't get too scarred about that. He still had an 824 OPS, which shows that his power and on base were still there. He was an 89th percentile in 6 major categories of percentile rankings, such as exit batting average, hard hit percentage, average exit velocity, expected slugging percentage for you guys afraid of that home run total. And it just like I like the peripherals for free agent signings because not the peripherals. I like the deeper stats for free agent signings because it shows projection. Like I talked about last week, teams aren't looking for what you did in the past; they're looking for what you could do in the future. And if you're showing an increase in hitting the ball hard and running fast, or you throw the ball hard, it increases your margin of error. So in a case like this, if you hit the ball 100 miles an hour, there's a better chance it gets through than if you hit it 60 miles an hour. And then if you have that one year when you hit 320, for example, Adam Frazier a couple years ago was bottom tier in exit velocity and hard hit percentage, but he had 300 average. That's not sustainable over a 8-year career, 6-year career, like an average major league career. This kind of thing is sustainable even as he gets older in age, Abreu, and just from a easy baseball standpoint, he's just a ball player. He's just a hitter. He's what we call a professional hitter. The Astros had that with Michael Brantley. I don't know if he's going to come back. I haven't really heard much about him from a market standpoint, but as like Jose Abreu is the epitome of that. Just professional hitter, just puts the ball in play. Um, any term you can use, just like works the count, great eye. Like these aren't all true about him, but it's just any like insert baseball phrase here and Jose Abreu as a hitter. It comes to that. Like he's got a knack for like making contact, bat to ball skills. You hear that a lot when you're growing up, and he's got it, and he's got a knack for getting hits. Like he won the MVP in 2020. I know it's a short year, but someone's got to win it. Um, like I said, the rich get richer. You slot Abreu into that lineup, I would suggest probably hitting him fifth or sixth. Like it's probably going to go out Tuve, Pena, Alvarez, Bregman, Tucker, him. Like that. Look at that six. Like that's he batted third on the White Sox, and the White Sox have a pretty potent lineup, like with Robert and Jimenez and Anderson and all those guys. This lineup it just gets deeper, and it also gives you thump, especially Minute Maid compared to I don't know what the name of their ballpark is right now, but the White Sox ballpark, the difference in size, he's gonna like I talked about with Bogarts last week, he's gonna just knock that ball over the fence in left field, the Crawford boxes. And there's no reason why this isn't going to work. There's no pressure on him. It's not a massive deal. This is about market value for him. And he's not the greatest first baseman like at all. Like he was less than arm strength. He's actually above average and outs above average, but his range is limited. Like all those numbers are his metrics are kind of fading for that, which makes sense. He's getting older, but he rakes, and that's what they signed him for. He rakes. They're going to like they won the World Series with Trey Mancini playing first base, and making a crucial play because Gurriel got hurt. Trey Mancini is not a good like defensive player at all, and first base. I don't even know if that's his real position. I don't know what his position is, but the fact of the matter is that they wanted to add another bat. It is interesting to me. I don't know if they get Yuli Gurriel to be like a defensive guy or Gurriel just retires. Like I don't know. Also like a guy like Dom Smith they can get to play first base as a defensive guy, but again, he's gonna want to play every day. That's me as a Met fan. I know he just got non-tendered, so he's fresh on my mind. Um, yeah, so it's just this is an all in all great signing. I don't know why they just like keep letting this happen. Other teams that were interested actually were the Guardians and Red Sox. The Guardians were a great fit because you can get Josh Naylor off first base into the DH role. He can rock the baby as a DH, not as the first baseman. Um, and that would have been a really good move, and it would have made sense for the Guardians because he's not super expensive. But you pair him with Ramirez and Jimenez, that's a good 2, 3, 4. That would have been a good fit, but obviously they missed out. The Red Sox also were interested, and I see all the time the joke is they're the king of the interested. And I mean, it couldn't be more true. They haven't really signed a big time free agent, it seems like in a while, like Trevor Story, I guess, but we'll see how that pans out. I don't even know if he can play shortstop anymore, and that he might have to this year. So that might get a little dicey in Boston, but they've done enough winning Boston. The Celtics, Bruins, Patriots, Red Sox. They got how many alone from Brady, and now then the Celtics are in the finals last year. The Red Sox have won 3 in what, like 20 years. It's stupid. It's annoying. But anyway, that's my rant on Boston. Yeah, Jose Abreu, A+ signing for the Astros. I'm gonna clap that one up for them. A signing that came in on I forget what day, and I thought it was going to highlight this show. And I'm happy it didn't because I looked at the numbers and I don't love it, especially for the team he went to. Mike Clevinger, San Diego Padre, went to the White Sox on a 1-year deal for $12 million. I understood him getting a 1-year deal coming off a down year and also being absolutely hard in the playoffs, which is kind of important. And it's concerning to me because of the team he went to. I saw he's like an upper level percentile in fastball ride and fastball spin, which you get in like a drive line, like the Reds like have drive line guys. They can make that fastball work. They can make other pitches work off that and make that your dominant pitch. Or a team like the Mets or the Brewers or the Rays or the Yankees with Matt Blake have done a great job. You get that kind of development and that type of like critiquing, and you make that work. The White Sox have become so ancient that you're not getting by anymore by just throwing combos in the bullpen. Like you have to. I'm not saying they don't do this at all, but I think they have the least amount of analytical people in their building. They have like 4, and that's like as stubborn as some people want to be about that stuff. it is so important nowadays from an interior standpoint for baseball to have those guys in your building, and they just don't. And I mean, maybe they will with Tony La Russa, like being gone, and like I don't know what their plan is from that standpoint. I can't see it changing that much in 1 year, and this is a 1 year deal, but you never know. Like Dylan Cease, that's a good example of a guy that really flourished, but he also throws 97. Clevenger doesn't. Giolito took a step back too. Like Carlos Rodon just continued his success while Giolito, it seems like can't really find himself. He's like back and forth. And I'm afraid Clevenger is going to the wrong team for a guy that wants to reestablish his career after like really hitting rock bottom in the playoffs. He had a 4.33 ERA, which was and he has a career low K rate 18.8, which factors into his expected stats all being like below percentile of like 25, and that's not good. He does have an interesting stat that I found from, if you guys don't listen to the Mets podcast with Mark Luino and James Shiano, James Shiano is a pitching guy. He tweeted this. He tweeted he has 3 pitches with a whiff rate higher than 29%. I believe only 10 other pitchers in the league had that. So that is something you can work with. You, like I said, that's where you work in combos and understand tendencies and use that fastball for you rather than against you. And I think a lot of times he tried to use his fastball as his best pitch rather than a secondary pitch. Like use his slider more often, play the fastball up. I think teams like we talked about the Mets, Taijuan Walker is a great example of that. Went away from the four-seamer, two-seam cutter, it worked. Then he went away from that in the second half in 2021, and it wasn't good. Like there are certain guys that like we're at the point in baseball with pitching where you don't have to have your fastball as your one. Like that's the whole thing. It's like, oh, one, that's the catcher. Or now it's buttons. But and I think Clevinger or Clev, I like that nickname actually, is a great example of that. I also question the geographical comfortability. I talked about that last week too. The dude, like, I think he's from San Diego. I'm not sure. I'm actually gonna look that up while I'm talking, but it like that's like San Diego and Chicago are two different basically parts of the country. Yeah, Mike Clevinger, he is from Jacksonville, Florida. So a warm weather state. All right. It's different side of the country, but the weather might be a factor. Probably not. But I don't know. He seemed to really adapt well to San Diego. Maybe he just had that like warm weather vibe to him, and maybe that's why I got that. But my apologies. You're from Jacksonville, Duval. But yeah, I don't know if this is a great spot for him to revitalize his career, but if it works for the White Sox, you have him, you have Cease, you have Giolito, you also have Kopech still, you have like other guys, and you can build off that. I'm just afraid that this is a low risk, high reward deal that's not going to bang as a high reward. All right, before we go any further with the rest of the show, I actually want to talk about Miguel Cabrera, and we're going to clap it up for Miguel Cabrera. You guys are at home listening to this, clap it up too. You can do golf snaps if you want. I don't know if you guys like golf or not. I don't like golf. This is his final year. 2023 will be his retirement tour, similar to Pujols. We've seen it with Adrian Beltre, Derek Jeter. Some people are sour when guys do this. They think it's attention seeking. I happen to love it. You know, Miguel Cabrera has earned it. He's done everything this game has asked. He won Triple Crown. He's won MVPs. He's done everything. He's been great for the game. Like he's been fun, got raw power, and he just. I think that this era does not appreciate enough of like the era before us. And I know I sound like an old man, even though I'm 22 years old. But like the Pujols is like he's retired now. Miguel Cabrera is retired now. A couple years ago, Joe Mauer, like guys like that, like you don't realize like the impact they've left on this game, and it's also not an indictment, but it shows how much this game is in a good spot because there is so much young talent nowadays that it lets you forget about these guys to move on to the next talent, and that's kind of what they want too. They want to leave this game in better hands than they want to leave it in a better place than it was when they got there, and they've done that. You know, Miguel Cabrera hitting oppo homers was like you did that. You were like some sort of like wildebeest back then. Now guys are doing it at will. Aaron Judge, that's his sweet spot, is right center. Like, And I think because of that, like people need to appreciate this more. This is also more. It reminded me of Pujols with the 700 homers, and the fact that like that needs to get as much credit as it should. Like it not I shouldn't say that. That should get as more credit than anyone should ever give it because who right now in the league is going to hit 700? I know Mike Trout's got like in the 350s, I believe, by now, and so Stanton too, but they need to do that again. And I would give Trout a better shot than Stanton just because I think he's the better ball player. I think they'll both get to 500, those two guys. But like, that's crazy how like we should not take for granted the 700 homer club, the 600 homer club, the 500 homer club. We shouldn't take for granted. Hell, the 400 homer club. It's so hard to do that, and it doesn't happen that often. And I'm hoping as a fan and just mad that I missed the 700th homer because it was on Apple TV. Not that I don't like the Apple TV idea. It's just if the Mets weren't on it, I wasn't really watching it. I had other ways to watch the games legally. Like I bought extra innings on my TV and I watched them, but um and I missed them and I was upset about that because like I don't know if I'm gonna see that. I don't know if I'm gonna see 700 homers. I saw Alex Rodriguez's last home run, and he came what like four short. Like I'm hoping Trout gets it. Like Trout might get 400 this year. Like the way he hits home runs, if he stays healthy, he hit 40 in what 120 games. The guy get a 58 like upside down or lefty. And I'm gonna say it again. I just hope that people appreciate Miguel Cabrera and what he's did, and how like natural of a hitter he was, and just how easy he made it look sometimes, especially when he was in his heyday, winning the Triple Crown. Just any pitch, like he had no holes. He was impossible to strike out, and like I said, he was just fun. He was just he's when your team's getting blown out. He reminds you, it's like, all right, I enjoy this sport. When the Mets were losing 12-0, and I would turn on the Tigers, if they're playing like a late night game against like the Angels, you see Miguel Cabrera and it's like, damn, like this is why I love baseball. And this is why I don't mean to romanticize this game, but like this is why like it's a game. Like it's fun and like enjoy watching it as a consumer, as a fan, now as a hopefully podcaster. And I just hope he gets to the appropriate tour. He should. The Tigers probably aren't going to be that great unless they have a complete flip from last year. And I really do just I appreciate like what he did, and just growing up watching him hit was just not like he was probably him or Pujols was the closest thing I had to Barry Bonds when it came to a guy like just natural born studs. And now we have like Trout, who's probably there, and Harper. But even then, like not many guys came into the class of like Cabrera and Pujols, and who knows? I don't even know if there's a guy in the league right now that can do that kind of stuff besides Trout. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't mean to disrespect anybody, but even like I said, Bryce Harper, like Acuna, maybe Juan Soto is a lefty, but even then, like I don't know. It's tough to fill those shoes, and it's okay if you don't. Like you could still be a Hall of Fame baseball player and not fill those shoes, which is crazy. But like I'll clap it up again. Just congratulations. Well deserved. First ballot Hall of Famer in my book. We're gonna get to the Hall of Fame in a little bit, but congratulations, Miguel Cabrera, on a great career and one more year. Let's hit 30 bombs this year, Mickey. I'm not gonna go into too many free agents this week. I felt like I don't want to bore you guys out by just being the whole minute like okay, those two are predictions for this position. I just saw a couple like John Morosi tweeted. Michael Conforto drew interest from the Seattle Mariners. I saw Brandon Nimmo drew interest from the Giants. I saw Cody Bellinger drew interest from the Cubs. I saw all these like guys drawing interest in these guys. It's an interesting market for the outfield. That those are the three guys I off the top of my head that I thought of, and I think that outfield could be very important for like center fielders like Nimmo and Bellinger, especially out of those three guys I was talking about. And Nimmo is probably the best out of those three when it comes to like he's going to get the biggest contract, but Bellinger could be a weird one. Like if you get him in the right spot, you can you get him close to that 2016, 2017 range or 2018 range. Like wow, he's your best player. Like if you get him in that range. And I just wanted to hit on those three guys, like how because I just heard they were drawing interest. I also saw like Rodon talked to the Mets, and DeGrom got interest from the Rays. That's never going to happen, but you know what I'm saying. Verlander talked to the Dodgers. That's probably the biggest news, like out of like talking to teams that we heard, because that seems like a real possibility. But I don't want to bore you guys with just like, oh, this team's interested in this guy, because then let's be honest, like none of that's real until it happens. I want to react to that stuff. I don't want to. I don't. Everyone's interested in everyone. Like that's the point of this whole thing. And other news is Carlos Santana signed with the Pirates. Just he's gonna get that 1 year deal, and he's gonna get traded at the deadline to like the Guardians, and he's gonna be a veteran guy. Like that's what the Pirates do. O'Neal Cruz is tearing up the fall league. That dude's got the easiest power I've ever seen in my life. And if he can put it together, wow, that guy's gonna win an MVP on accident, because he doesn't even. I don't even think he realizes the talent that guy has. Just, I know, like the Justin Turner with that whole thing, like who cares about arm strength? In theory, it doesn't technically matter, but like I said before, margin of error. When you run fast, hit the ball fast, and throw fast, it you can make more. You can bobble a ball and still get the guy out at first. You can miss hit a ball and hit the ball in the gap. You can hit a dribbler and beat it out because you're fast. So I was just thinking about that on top of my head. Um, Willson Contreras is the one guy I did have written down. Because he did draw some serious interest from the Astros, and there are stuff tied to this, which is why I want to talk about it. We've seen all over like Instagram and stuff how the Cardinals are like tied to him, which is like funny because he's like liking Instagrams, and like it's Yadier Molina's gone, so like they need a catcher, and I mean they better get a catcher. They don't seem to want to get anyone else. Like they said, Tommy Edmonds a good shortstop. Like can we stop with that? Can we use him as a utility guy? He's a utility guy. Come on. But I guess they want to wait for Mason Wynn. But star shortstops prospects, like let's do the math here. The deadline this year when they got Christian Vasquez, the original deal was Willson Contreras for Jose Urquidy, who actually is a pretty quality pitcher. Would have actually been pretty good pickup for the Cubs. But anyway, that was a deal. Like it was not done, like signed, obviously, but it was agreed upon. And Dusty Baker and the owner Jim Crane said no, like we don't want it. So I don't know why they'd be interested now. Maybe it's more that they didn't want to give up Urquidy and maybe just get this guy for free. Not for free, like meaning not giving up anything back, but I don't know. I think he's using the Astros as a lever or a way to get like the Cardinals to get back up to that price so he can get his money, get that bag, as those kids say. I'm 22. I'm not old. But if he goes to the Astros, it's just another example of this team getting richer. But Willson Contreras, you are a St. Louis Cardinal. That is my prediction for you. I don't really see any other. I see a bunch of fits because everyone needs catchers, but outside of like the Orioles, Dodgers, and Braves, and what's the Phillies, like everyone needs a catcher nowadays. Whoever gets you is going to get a guy who plays every day. So I don't really blame the Astros for being interested. I would be shocked if they signed him, though. And finally, the dreaded conversation, the Hall of Fame. Uh, this bothers me, this conversation, because it's so petty. I'm not even talking about the new ballot. I know next year I'm rooting for David Wright, hopefully to make it on the first ballot, but I don't even know if he's going to make it at all. I'm hoping Beltran gets in this year, but beside that ballot, I'm talking about like I think it's called the committee era ballot. Like Barry Bonds is on it, Roger Clemens is on it, Kurt Schilling's on it. All these guys are on it, and it shouldn't have gotten to this point with these guys. I'm sorry, the whole steroid era. There's been so many cheating scandals in baseball. You have to really pick and choose to get these guys in and out of the Hall of Fame. David Ortiz is in the Hall of Fame, and he had steroid things. I mean, Mike Piazza's in the Hall of Fame. I know he never tested positive, but even though Barry Bonds basically admitted it, he never tested positive. Roger Clemens, same idea. Like, it's not fair to keep these guys out on an opinion. Like, growing up, like I went to school to be a journalist, communications, whatever. They always taught me keep your bias out of it when stating facts. Makes sense, you can't use like emotional terms like like really good. You don't use or good or you don't say like, oh, the good guy. Like no, you just say the guy or the girl because you can't put emotion into it because it's a fact. It's not a story. It's not a fictional story or it's not yours. It's you're stating facts. Hall of Fame is a factual vote with an opinion attached, but that opinion needs to be based on your opinion on him for baseball, not if you like him as a guy or not. And that's what is so aggravating with this. And I hear on a lot of podcasts I listen to, it's aggravating because I, for one, I write, I'm a sports writer. What I would do to talk to these guys like these players is incredible. To want to piss them off just doesn't make sense to me. Maybe I played baseball. I understand. I played sports. The majority of this world has done something competitive in their life. When you lose, it bothers you. Imagine getting a camera shoved in your face right after that. Like you're gonna be a little pissed off. And that's okay. You're not a bad person for doing that. Barry Bonds wasn't great with the media. I read something before on Kurt Schilling with like a social media thing I didn't know about. And that's what kept him out of the Hall of Fame. Like, I'm sorry, he didn't like that has nothing to do with the fact that he was a dominant pitcher. Same with Roger Clemens. Just because you don't like him, he still has 7 freaking Cy Youngs. Barry Bonds, Don Mattingly, like I don't even know why he's not in the Hall of Fame. We want to put guys like we put Don Sutton in the Hall of Fame, God rest his soul, but Don Sutton because he had longevity. But he was like not a Hall of Fame pitcher ever. Don Mattingly was a Hall of Fame player for basically the entire prime of his career. I do think longevity means something, but you need to be a Hall of Fame player. Like Harold Baines. Like I always bring up him when it comes to the Hall of Fame. There are some guys that come to my mind when they're not Hall of Famers, and I always say like I think the worst Hall of Famers. I don't really know the name. Is Barry Bonds better than that? Yeah, he is. Roger Clemens better? Yeah. Like why are we holding this group of guys who these guys are not Hall of Famers, they're elite Hall of Famers. They're like top 15 of all time, top 20 of all time, let alone a guy like 150th, but he's a Hall of Famer because there's like, I don't know how many guys are in the Hall of Fame, but there's got to be over 100. And these guys are left out because people don't like them. Like, listen how stupid that sounds. You know how many people like imagine you didn't make a team, but you were like the best player on the team, but oh, you rubbed the teammate the wrong way. Like I know it's a different idea because like team chemistry and stuff like that, but you hit bombs, figure it out. You figure that stuff out. It's a level of respect, and respect goes both ways. Am I saying Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens? I don't know them, but like were they the easiest to deal with the media or were they the easiest to deal with in the papers? No, but writers nowadays have an agenda, and if you don't follow their agenda, they don't like you, and it's costing them immortality. Like the Baseball Hall of Fame has become so corrupt. Every Hall of Fame, Terrell Owens in football. Are you serious? Like the dude is a top 10 easily receiver of all time, in my opinion, and he was left out for the same type of reason. It doesn't make sense to me. It never will. I don't know why they put it into the hands of people that never played the game, or just because writing about a sport doesn't mean you are engaged in the game. You're not there every day, meaning like you're not in between the lines at all times. You're not in the clubhouse at all times. A lot of writers aren't even with specific teams. A lot of them are just with networks, and that's okay. I want to do the same thing. I want to be in that journalistic field too. But to think that you can decide a guy's fate not based on because there's no shot, not one guy on that baseball writers list can tell me that Barry Bonds, from a baseball standpoint, is not a Hall of Famer. He led everyone in home runs. Roger Clemens had, I say it again, 7 Cy Youngs. That is unheard of. That is literally unheard of. And they're not even a sniff for the Hall of Fame. I didn't even bring up a guy like Fred McGriff, who's going to get in because two of his teammates were on the Braves that are on this committee era ballot. I think I know it's Chipper Jones. I think it's Greg Maddux, but don't quote me on that one. And it's just a shame. Like even I think Dale Murphy's on this list. Rafael Palmeiro, which I mean he's probably on the lower end of this group. If you're like a fringe Hall of Famer and you did steroids, then yeah, you probably shouldn't make it because you probably were in the Hall of Fame because of the steroids, and that makes sense. Barry Bonds had how many MVPs before he got caught with steroids? How many they also weren't illegal until like I think the early 2000s. Roger Clemens had how many Cy Youngs until he tested positive for steroids, or just got told he took steroids? Like we see it all the time. I saw it like 10 years ago. I saw it a list of like steroid users. Like what does that even mean? List of steroid users, like list of like possible like what are you basing that off of? Like I never understood that. Like you just like single guys out because you don't like them or you're suspicious or have real proof. Like pull like the Ryan Braun thing. He tested positive, and he won one MVP. Was it because of steroids? Maybe, probably, but he tested positive. He didn't win 6 MVPs. He didn't win 7 Cy Youngs. He won one MVP, and he's not going to make the Hall of Fame, obviously. But it's aggravating that it's not fringe Hall of Famers we're keeping out. You want to talk about Pete Rose? I get it. Like you bet on baseball. We did the whole thing with Shoeless Joe a long time ago. That was over 100 years ago now, I think. But these guys aren't fringe. These guys aren't the Don Suttons of the world. These guys are the Hall of Elite, like the best players of all time. You could argue these guys as top 15 players in the sport ever. And this sport's been going on for how long now? 150 years. And it just really irks me how they are being left out because of pettiness. That's all I got for you guys today. I really hope you appreciate the episode. You know where to find me. I also, if you guys want comment jerseys that I should buy, I'm doing a collection. I'm going to get a jersey from every team. Right now, I have Tatis on the Padres, and I have like 4 Mets jerseys. I showed off last week. I think it was my black Lindor Mets jersey, probably my favorite jersey. I got it as a gift, and yeah, so comment jerseys. If you have any ideas? I'm open to anything. I'm looking for 30 teams. So, thank you guys, and I will see you next week. Peace out.